During this video, I'm going to discuss 3 incredibly powerful journaling techniques that you can test out in your own life. So the first time I heard about journaling, I was like, what is this dear diary thing that you do where you write out some of your feelings, and it just seems a bit mushy, and like what's the point? And so I didn't do it for a really long time, but I kept hearing about it and the power of it during podcasts with a lot of the people that I admire. And as I started to look into journaling, I realized that some of the greatest thinkers of all time, from Socrates to Marcus Aurelius, to different philosophers, like from different creatives, inventors like Da Vinci, so many of them kept some form of journal. So I was like, there must be something to this. And so I started to dive deep, and I invested thousands of dollars over the course of probably the last 7 years now. I've been journaling pretty consistently. And I wanted to discover what are the best journaling methods. And I don't think there is a best journaling method. And I think everyone has their own journaling method and way of journaling that works for them. But during this video, I wanted to discover 3 of the most powerful ones that I had learned. And I wanted to share them with you. So each of these cover 3 different facets of life. So one is just problem solving. So whether you're a highly successful entrepreneur, investor, creative, or are aspiring to be, no matter the stage and level of growth that you're at, you're going to encounter different levels of problems. And you can look at these as problems, you can look at these as opportunities, you can look at these as challenges, but it's something that you got to solve, some obstacle you got to overcome to achieve the outcome or goal, or just feel less stress in your life. And one of the most valuable practices that I've heard around this actually comes from Josh Waitzkin. He would coach a lot of these different CEOs, and he would help them identify what is your most important question that you should be asking yourself right now. To solve what is the core problem that you're facing in your life that if you solved would make everything else easier or unnecessary. So say, for example, I am running a company where I'm aiming to do $1 million a month in sales. And that's sort of the problem, the obstacle, the goal, whatever you want to phrase it as, that is most important for me to solve. Then I can phrase that as a question, what do I need to do today to earn $1 million a month in my business? And it can be a different problem. It could be a leads number. It could be sort of anything in that person's life. It could be even related to their health. And then his practice was you would often write it out the night before, and then you would write it in the morning and you would free write to it. I haven't necessarily stuck to that exact script and way that he goes about it, but I have found it useful when I am facing a problem or challenge to turn it into a question, and then to basically write out my idea or solutions to that. And even if I don't get it the first time, when you just keep going back to it. And sometimes what I found is there is so much value in refining your question before you start trying to solve something. So sometimes you're actually asking the wrong question in the first place. But I've just found that an incredibly useful problem-solving tool, and it's so simple. But there's so many times in my life where I've relied on, and I think we can do so even more now. If you feed that question and you apply that thinking to AI or ChatGPT or Claude, I think it can be extremely valuable. But I still think, and I think there's quite a lot of research coming out about it right now, is asking yourself those questions first and getting yourself to think through things before you instantly jump to someone else, or you jump to AI, or you jump to something. I think just having that as a practice, and it doesn't have to be with every question and every problem you face. Sometimes ChatGPT or AI is going to be much more effective at solving different problems, and you can just give it the key question. But I think a lot of times our intuition, our heart can know the answer that is best for us, and when we get still and we sit with that question, it can really be powerful. Some people even do this during a meditation where you don't write. So you just, before you begin a meditation, and you just pop that question in your mind, and then you just sit with that question throughout the day, and then you see what answers come to you throughout the day around that. So that's what I would say the first one is. then one of the second most valuable things, and now this is more around peace and cultivating a greater sense of, a greater sense of peace. So this one is very well known, but I have found it really effective. Like I was doing it today, and it's amazing how much it can clear up my mind to get on with different tasks throughout the day. And that one is basically, you just free write. You set a timer for 15, 20 minutes, even less, and you just write out anything and the first thing that comes to mind. You just don't stop typing or writing, and you just let whatever comes out. And I think one of the reasons why I've found this so valuable is it gives you a space to be completely unfiltered and truthful with yourself. And you can express the uncomfortable truths that you might be feeling that might not be socially acceptable. Or you can be having so many different ideas and things going through your mind. And when you just get it out and you create that space or that distance, and you realize that you're not your thoughts, these are just thoughts that have been running through your mind, it really can create a sense of space and distance. And I've done like 30-day courses where they have like a question, and then you basically just do this every day. And I think it can be incredibly valuable. I think and some people can pick like 3 pages. I think there's a famous book by Julia Cameron called The Artist's Way. I could be getting her name wrong, but that can also be a really valuable resource around this. And yeah, and then I've also heard, I think it's Tim Ferriss, who's obviously interviewed, if you don't know Tim Ferriss, he's interviewed all these really successful high performers from all areas of life. And I know he's also done it as a practice. I don't know if he still does it, but basically most days he'll do it, and he almost views it as spiritual windshield wipers. So it is just, I found it's very good, especially if you've got if you're in the creative sphere, which I think everyone's in the creative sphere. I'm not going to go down that rant or that side tangent. Everyone's creative in their own way. So yeah, that's what I would say, the second one that I found really useful. Even I think within this as well, it's also allowing yourself to feel like, the thing that I found useful after practicing this method for quite a long time is allowing yourself to pay attention to your body and stay present whilst you're journaling. So because you're letting your thoughts go and you're writing, it's very easy to get stuck in your head. And I think some of the greater realizations and truths come to me when I almost place my attention on my heart or my entire body, and I focus and refocus on my breath whilst I'm writing. And I think that ability to stay present through writing, for me, just gets me out of my head and just allows things to flow more easily. It's not 100% guaranteed, but that's just like a subtle nuance subtle little tip that I've noticed. And then one of the third ones, and now the third journaling method, and this can be like a thinking tool, a journaling method, you can keep it in your journal, but it's also, again, super simple, but very underrated. And this one I actually adapted from an ex-tennis coach of mine called Luke Smith, and he had won the NCAAs. He was an ex-professional tennis player. His dad coached world number 1 Leighton Hewitt, and their family just has an incredible story and experience within dealing with high-performing athletes. And during our sessions, one of the things that I'm very grateful that Luke shared with me is this idea of key points. And I actually hadn't, after playing tennis for, I don't know, it must have been like 17, 15 years, I'd actually never heard something so simple, but it has stayed with me in sort of all areas of life. So Luke, if you're watching this, thank you, bud. But I think the first thing is, when you're playing tennis, there can be quite a lot of different technical things that you can think about. And Luke would get myself and some of his players to write down their top 3 to 5 key points. And then you can go through your top 3 to 5 key points. So say it could be like, I've got to drop my racket, or I've got to finish with my elbow. And you can also have the sequence and order that these key points happen. And then if you get lost or you're really trying to dial in your technique during practice, you can repeat these as almost like a mantra. It could be like round, down, step, and hit, or whatever you are aiming, whatever skill you're performing. And I just think this way of learning applies to so many different other facets. So if there is something that you're wanting to increase your performance in, like writing down like what are my 3 to 5 or even top 10 rules for success, and thinking through your own top 10 rules for success. So say right now I'm getting into, like, I'm a creative, but I'm also in the business world. It'll be like, okay, what are my top 10 rules for success with business from everything that I've learned? And I think this is really valuable because it also helps you to think critically and for yourself. You don't just take, it can be overwhelming, the amount of advice on the internet, like advice from friends, from family. You can hear a lot of wise things from different people, and they can often conflict with each other in different moments. But thinking through yourself, okay, right now with the skill that I'm trying to develop, the thing that I'm aiming to perform better at, what are my top 3 to 5 to potentially even 10 key points, and then writing them down and keeping them in your journal. And as you start to nail the certain skills within these different areas, then you can start to change and update them as they evolve, or you might hear something that actually resonates better, and then you just continually update this. Like Andy Murray, when he was playing in the Australian Open, he had his cheat sheet, I believe in one of the ones, where like he had this little piece of paper that he would check in between breaks whilst he's playing. And you know, he's played for so long, he probably knows so many things, but we all need reminders. And so much of learning is reminding yourself of the basics again and again and again until it just becomes completely unconscious. So yeah, those are, I can dive into more journaling techniques, and I hope it's not too windy right now, just walking around and around. But yeah, those are 3 really valuable journaling techniques that I found. Hope you found this useful. Please share if you would like me to cover more things about journaling in the future. And I'm actually building a journal right now, and I've been building one for the last year and a bit. And I think we should get a beta or prototype out. It's sort of been a passion project on the side. So if you are interested in the journal that I'm creating, just comment down below in the comments, journal, and I'll keep you in mind, and I'll respond to your comment. Or yeah, I actually need to create a waiting list and a website, which is actually in the process of coming. But for now, you can just comment journal down below, and I'll remind you of when the journal's out. But yeah, I hope you found this useful. I hope you have an incredible week. Much love, much peace. Bye for now.